how does one sustain a touch of God, a revelation of God in the heart, no matter where the exterior church is going? Like, how do you think she kept that fresh, or anyone could keep the freshness of
Yeah.
Jesus being all that he is to us?
Yeah. With her, and I can answer the question, believe it or not, because I remember what she said. With her, she got involved with WEC,
Okay.
World Evangelization Crusade.
Very well acquainted with it. I knew Norman.
Right.
I knew
Norman Grubb.
Yes.
Okay, right, okay. So she was involved. Now, I can't remember when WEC started. Is that the 20s?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And so she was involved. As soon as that was happening, I can't remember what happened from 1905. They said, I don't know. But she held what was called a prayer battery in her home.
Yes.
For all these years. In other words, she was involved. She wasn't looking back at the revival, taking more from the revival. She was moving on with God.
Yeah.
God takes us through as a people. He takes us through the Red Sea, but we are not meant to stand on the other side of the Red Sea explaining to people how he constantly takes us through the Red Sea. We've come through the Red Sea. There is a testimony of the Red Sea, but there must be a testimony of the desert, a testimony of following the fire in the desert, a testimony of crossing the Jordan into the land. There must be new, fresh testimonies. Without testimonies, we know this from revival. People just leave it. And, revival...
well, it becomes idolatry. It becomes the stones you take out of this crossing become an idolatrous object, kind of like Gideon.
It's the stones. It's the stones.
Yeah.
And God's not interested in stones, even though they're historical. I think that we need victories. I speak sometimes, in the book of Judges. I think it's Judges. Yeah, in book of... Joshua's book of Joshua. I'm sorry, end of the book of Joshua. You get constant references to battles being won, and that's the book of Joshua. It's not just about the beginning, but it's about other battles and putting flags up on different battles that are won years later.
Yeah,
and for me, I think you've got to ask the question, am I winning battles now? Not the battles I once fought, although they can come back. Sorry, they can come back. You win a battle and you become much more alive. You win the battle and you come alive because God's alive with you in the battle.
Yes, that's good.
But God doesn't promise to just keep us watching old movies in our minds of what happened. And grumbling about young people today. They're not as spiritual as we were when we were young people. There's always that danger.
Yeah.
So it's it's whatever God asks you to do next. One person said, Christianity is quite easy. Just do the next thing he asks you to do. And that comes from a sort of WEC background, where they would speak about that. It's the holiness. WEC, I think, were influenced by the holiness movements of the end of the 19th century, Keswick, 1874 onwards. And Norman Grubb also wrote on...
Rhys
Howells, of course he did, yes, that's right.
Kath asked me to address the staff at Bible College of Wales, and I read about it, and I felt like we can come under the weight of expectancy when you're on, some of the most famous real estate,
Yes.
Of becoming something other than what we are. And it really caught my ear when you told Kath and Hannah, be who you are. Yeah. Can you address that for the creatives that will be watching this?
Yeah.
About somehow it's just so easy to come under almost an unconscious weightiness of expecting to become something that was.
Yeah.
It's not who we are.
Yeah. It's a copying. And we feel we can be accepted only if we copy. So let me give a silly example. So in certain Pentecostal churches in Wales, I don't know if it's the case anymore, when preachers would pray, they would pray in this way, and this is the way they would pray. And everyone who would pray would fall. Now, that's not a big fault. That you could take that as culture or whatever. The fault comes when you try to do that. When you try to be externally like the people you're supposed to be like. And then the non-conformity becomes conformity to the non-conformity.
Yeah.
If you're conformed to non-conformity, you're just as conformed.
Yes.
You're just as conformed.
Absolutely.
It's just as a different group of people you're conforming to.
It's
So
true.
when I was a teenager, trying my best to be a hippie, I felt I was the early 70s, I had my long hair and all these things. I felt I was the cool dude. I wasn't conforming. Now, I wasn't conforming to my mother and father and my chapel and all those things, but I was conforming exactly to the people who mattered, my friends. I was a total conformist
Yes.
to my friends. So we were all the same,
True.
if you understand what I mean. And it's hard sometimes not to conform in the group you're with. It's the peer pressure of your own group. Whatever group that is, it doesn't matter. Now, I am not one who says you've got to be non-conformist all the time. God can work through conformity. I haven't got a problem. But I think you need to be who you are.
Yes.
And, there's certain things I can't be. My wife is an academic, and a very brilliant academic who writes books, thick books like this, but whatever. If I tried to be that academic, I would fail. I would fail. If she tried to be the extrovert that I am, okay, doing whatever, she would fail. She is used of God, I am used of God. And I think it's recognizing who we are, using our gifts. So with Kath, the fact that she was alive to God and that passion combined with that voice, I just wanted to push her along in that, because that was her. Di, with his poetry and with he's unique. He's typical Welsh. He's a Welsh boy. He's not trying to be anything else. He's a Welsh boy and he's proud of it and he loves it. And I'll give you another example. We're three brothers, okay? And the three of us are pretty creative, right? My creativity is, where do I exercise it? In preaching, I talk with the art form of preaching, poetry, things like that. I love that, and reading, that's my area, I love that. My other brother, next one down, is big reader, is a pastor in Mid Wales. Again, a very good preacher, enjoys reading, etc. And then my other brother doesn't like reading at all. Now he's our smaller brother. He's much bigger than us. He's a big boy. He's a big boy. A rugby loving Welsh boy. He hardly ever reads any books except the Bible. He often tells me, "Oh, I'm so jealous of you, Kevin, that you'd never, wherever you go, if you take a book, you're not alone." And it's true. I take books wherever I go. But here's the thing: if he tried to be me, he'd be a waste of space.
Yes.
He is a fantastic preacher and speaker. He is known throughout Wales. Everybody knows my brother, because he doesn't try to be anyone else. He doesn't try to be an academic, which he isn't. But he is who he is. He recognizes that God has created him to reach anyone, and he can speak in front of anyone. In a wedding, I was married out here in 2004, and we were married in a medieval castle, believe it or not. There's a medieval castle which was transported and built
in
Boston. Close to Boston, Gloucester. Anyway, and of course my wife's a professor, so in the wedding, it's full of PhDs. Hardly anyone's not a PhD. I'm not a PhD. I've only got one degree. I gave up on my second. But anyway, besides the point. And my brother's got to speak. Now, my brother hardly graduated from high school, okay? But he graduated into bricklaying to begin with. So he had to give a speech in front of all these top evangelicals, most of whom were PhDs. All right. So he gets up and he says, he said, I know you're all PhDs here, and I know you're all academic. I want to tell you this, he said. I tonight feel like a lion in a den of Daniels. If you think that through. He admits that all these people can quell lions, but he doesn't care. He's a lion in a den of, and everyone roared. It was the best speech of the day.
Wow. And isn't that really creativity, being who you are?
Total creativity.
That's creativity, being who you are. Yes.
He is who he is. He's incredibly funny. He can tell a story in a fantastic way. Let me talk about him. I can give you another example of something he did. Because he's quite off his head in many ways. And he was working for Scripture Union in Wales. And one day he'd been to a Scripture Union meeting, and him and his partner who was working with him, they were crossing over the Severn Bridge. I don't know does that make sense to you? The Severn Bridge is a big bridge going back to Wales. Well, whenever he goes back to Wales, he puts a DVD on, not DVD, a CD on with the national anthem, and sings it every time. And he's got a huge voice. He always sings it with the people. So the other guy films him singing this. So there he is, my Lord, spelting this out as he's driving across the bridge. They put it on their website, the Scripture Union website. Now, that's got nothing at all to do with Scripture Union, okay? It's got nothing. He just happens to be a guy going back to Wales from a Scripture Union meeting. That had more hits than all the things that had been done in Scripture Union ever on their website, ever.
Wow.
Thousands upon thousands, 16.
Because he was being him, and he was tapping in